One of the things you'd mentioned was about growing people and like how like you want to grow people. Like what do you want? And it's like I want to grow people. What is that? Why does that matter? I guess. And then how do you do that?
Growing people. I have a deep care for people and growth. I mean, that all stems from my faith as a Christian, and I want to leave people better off than where they're at, or just be an influence on how I carry myself. I believe building better people builds better business, right? Whether it's in their own life, for our business, if they decide to leave, if I can help them progress their life, that's a victory.
Have you ever wondered how successful architecture, engineering, and construction companies scale their business?
Or have you ever wanted guidance on how to get more growth, wealth, and freedom from your AEC company?
Well, then you're in luck. Hi, I'm Will Forat.
And I'm Justin Nagel, and we're your podcast hosts.
We interview successful AEC business leaders to learn how they use people, process, and technology to scale their businesses.
So sit back and get ready to learn from the industry's best. This is
Building Scale.
Hey listeners, it's Will here. Our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy. If you've ever listened to our show, then you know that the three pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology. So if you suspect technology is your weak link, then book a call with us to see where we can help maximize your company's IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
Today's guest is Brian Lotz, founder of Lotz Custom Carpentry. Brian is a seasoned entrepreneur, skilled craftsman, and proud family man. He's been married for 16 years and is a devoted father to his 5 children. In addition to Lotz Custom Carpentry, Brian is also part owner of AM Woodland Outdoor Design and Pro Edge Painting, reflecting his diverse expertise across multiple trades. Lotz is a design-build firm specializing in residential construction and outdoor living spaces. From new construction, additions, and remodels to designing and crafting outdoor spaces that elevate everyday life. AM Woodland focuses on commercial landscaping, including outdoor designs and landscaping maintenance. Pro Edge adds a finishing touch with professional-grade painting services. Brian's businesses are built on the foundation of communication, trust, and execution, ensuring every client enjoys a superior experience. And with all that said, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. We met Brian at a Cultivate event, which is really, really cool. And so luckily enough, he won our raffle, which is always exciting stuff. And so hopefully that raffle has tasted good to you over the past couple months here, Brian. But with all this fun stuff I said, you tell us the real story. How did you get into construction and tell us about the business?
Yeah, so my story starts pretty young in age. My dad owned a small roofing company. On top of that, he built custom homes that were for us to live in for 2 years to alleviate the tax repercussion. And then we would sell it and rent a house while we built another one and rinse and repeat for a very long cycle. He didn't have to pay for a mortgage anymore. Kind of grew up around the trades and just always found it fascinating, and just hard work outside is always enjoyable. And so just kind of had that drive. I actually went to school I majored in psychology and math. Went to college as long as I felt I needed to gain what I needed and got out of that. I was working with my dad's friends who were contractors, single guys, doing remodels on the weekends, kitchens, bathrooms, roofs, additions, framing houses, whatever, gaining knowledge and things of what I liked and what I didn't like. I was in the middle of college. I played basketball in college, and I had met who is now my wife. We started hanging out for the summer, started dating, and about a week after that, she was offered a job at a hotel remodel company based out of Dallas, who the project manager was her cousin. The other employees was her second cousin, and her cousin Steve, the PM, was looking to bring a crew out to Maui to remodel hotels. So I was like, well, if you guys need anybody, I could be available. And didn't have the opportunity right away. My cousin Joe ended up getting on board, and they offered the other position to my other cousin, Justin, Joe's older brother, who who is now one of our business partners. And Justin was managing a local restaurant chain at the time and felt that growth trajectory was something he was more interested in than going to Maui. And I gladly took his place when it was offered.
Yeah, that was a hard sell there, I bet.
So I was like, well, if the opportunity's there, I'll leave school, I'll leave basketball and go do that, because I felt like it was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So lo and behold, a week after starting a relationship with who's now my wife, me, her, my cousin, Joe, who I grew up with, he was my best friend, my wife's second cousin, that was our construction crew for 4 months out in Maui. And it was as cool as it could imagine it being. Working a lot, hanging out on the beaches and every night, and rode to Hanas and sleeping outside and doing whatever you want to do in Hawaii. It was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but a lot of hard work, fast-paced. Stuck with that company for a couple years, came back to the mainland, as you call it out there.
Mainland, yes.
Some of our employees that we hired from Maui actually had never seen snow before or anything like that. So it's an awesome culture out there for sure. But stuck with that company for a couple years, ended up getting married, having our first daughter. I took a remodel job working for a contractor locally. Did that for about 9 months, right around the first economic crash. Well, not first, the first in my lifetime, 2008-ish. And through that, just, not really getting raises or promotions, just being told, aren't you lucky you have a job, which totally understand and can appreciate now more than then for sure, but I had a family to raise. So started my own business, just kind of side work, because from there I took a job at corporate, Target. I was a facility manager fixing up stores, fixed up the first store within like 3 months, did all the remodeling that I could possibly get my hands on. And then I grew relatively bored and took a lot of naps. And that really wasn't working out too well for my life. It helped pay the bills. It was good hours to allow me to keep working on the side, and built up enough backlog to where I convinced my wife I was ready to provide for the family on my own, and away we went. 2009, started out of the garage. You're solo entrepreneur, doing everything. So was that way for a long time. Hired, my dad and my cousin Justin to help me out when we needed another hand, and built it up to where hired first employee, fired first employee, hired second employee, and kept second employee. And he's our superintendent now. He's been with us for a long time, over a decade. So just kept organically growing, just trying to do things the best way I could with the experience that I had, and kept learning on the job a lot. I did all my own designs, all my own pencil drafting, and my wife did the books, and we just built a nice little business, and organically it grew. One of the first jobs I ever took was a master bathroom, and the beauty of bargaining from a homeowner's perspective at that time in a career is amazing, because I went in, they were supplying all the material. I was like, it's $10,000 for me to do this master bathroom remodel. They're like, well, we want to give you $5,000. And I was like, okay, I'll do it for $5,000. And I took that and I threw pretty much all of it right back into lead generation. So at the time, Home Advisor was a decent program. Kind of stepped away from that a long time ago. But it generated a lot of more lead opportunity, and just kept building the business with referrals and new leads, and grew it, really. So it didn't really fall into any particular niche, just kind of did whatever was available. A lot of remodels, bathrooms, kitchens, basements, decks, stuff like that. My cousin, Justin, who gave me the opportunity to work in Maui, ended up joining forces with AM Woodland, Dan and Andy, my business partners. And he was their first project manager. Justin actually had his own landscaping company for a few years, was getting ready to move to Arizona, and they convinced him to stay for, it was like $45,000 a year to run their production. So it was nothing that money was a persuasion of for him. It was more of opportunity, and what he saw and what they were doing. It was similar to the same thing I saw when we get to that point of the conversation. So he was working with them for a few years, and they were having trouble finding good carpenters, and he threw my name in the hat, and we started working together on some projects. We were doing their pergolas and decks and pavilions and that type of stuff. And they got to know me and kind of my GC background and what we're able to do for clients on a much grander scale. And we thought, like, hey, there's an opportunity here that doesn't really exist in our market yet. And it's, a company that can offer new construction, additions, remodels that affect outdoor spaces when it comes to pool houses, or additions and you have to redo landscaping, or you name it, a huge deck and waterproof, and someone wants to add a sliding door. Like, there's a lot of landscape contractors out there that are really good that GC, but they hire out all their carpentry. And a couple of them do that successfully, and we actually work for a lot of them, actually. But a lot of them are like, I don't want to do that. Hands off. Here's the plan. You go hire your own carpenter, and then the homeowner ends up being a GC. And that can be a headache for clients, especially when they're investing good money outside on luxury items. They don't really want to have to manage and have contractors pointing fingers back at contractors like, why are you doing this? You messed up that. Now who's responsible? No one's responsible. So we saw a huge opportunity to really combine all of that to really offer a service where we can step in with one face, one point of contact, go through the design process, make sure it's exactly what they want, phase it out if need be, and really just give them exactly what they're looking for underneath one roof. And all they got to do is make decisions on what they want to see. And even if they don't want to make decisions, we can do it for them. And ultimately, it's worked out really well. Haven't really gone to market on it too much yet. We're really starting that process currently. And so we're expecting a lot of positives out of this next phase in our career here. So that's exciting. So yeah, so we merged. I merged my company with AM Woodland 5 years ago, and we had our kinks to work through. Andy started his business the same way I started mine. He was by himself and built it up. And so a lot of like the growing points, pain points for me were I never had to be a project manager solely. I never had to be a superintendent solely. I never had to do all these individual tasks focused on that. I was everybody. I was all everything. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I could do it all, but I can't really explain how to do one thing perfectly and repeat it, rinse and repeat. So that was a learning process curve, getting things down in writing, SOPs, procedures, software, CRMs, getting away from Excel, all those spreadsheets. So making things easy to replicate. And we've seen the fruits of that labor come to fruition this year, and it's been phenomenal. And we're really now just about finding the right people to keep plugging in so that everybody who is involved and has been involved can keep growing adequately by replacing themselves properly so we can all continue stepping forward. So
no, that's quite the tale. That's it's interesting, the similarities of your business to then merge. Also, all the family connections, which I love, especially somebody named Justin that wants to move to Arizona. That hits my heart very, very closely. So what does the business look like now? Like size wise, like what people wise, what's it look like? I know that you're rolling out this combined brand effectively across, but what does it currently look like?
So during peak season, we're about 120 employees. Right now,
that's more than just you and your wife in your garage, by the way. I'm not a mathematician. I didn't go to college for math by any means of imagination. But as a smart man that you are with the mathematician, that's the math I know. 2 isn't as much as 140.
Yeah, it has folded over a few times for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, like right now, we still employ a lot of people during off season for landscape. On my side that I run, we don't slow down. We're busier than ever right now. We always have the fortunate problem of people wanting us to work during the holidays, so we tend to stay busy all the time. We'll take a couple weeks off during Christmas and New Year's. If our field staff wants to, we offer that to them. And if they want to work, then we make our project managers come in and manage. But, it's probably like 80 to 90 right now. And then we'll pick back up in the spring. And, revenue-wise, I think we'll end up around like 18 million this year. And, we're looking to hopefully double within the next 2 to 3 years. We've always very conservatively planned our budgets every year. knowing that we're going to supersede them organically, and that happens time and time again. We've never not had a growth period, so slow organic growth is great growth because it's sustainable. We had some rapid growth movements, which caused a lot of pain points, and we had to kind of work through that, but it's good. So trajectory is looking really good. We're already lining up a lot of really great Q1 work, which is important to start the year for us. It alleviates a lot of what we also do, which is create our own work. We have an investment company we started that we buy houses, we flip them, we hold them and rent them. We got about 40 doors right now. That's like the company that we have fun with, where we just try to keep building portfolio, and it's but it creates work when we need it. So it's good. It's not great margins, but it keeps people busy. So if we don't have to do that, Q1, we start the season out way better. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and things are looking very promising, and I'm really excited about what we're really going to do for this next year and completely blow out our very conservative budget for 2025.
Oh, I love hearing that. That is
yeah.
great. You and I have very similar mentalities around conservative and then blowing it out of the water. So kudos to you. I want to back up for a second because you'd merged, and what I've heard from a lot of partnerships or a lot of partners when they were doing it is that they hated it, that they don't want to do partnerships. The merger that happened and partnering requires trust. So how do you find trust with partners?
It was probably much harder for me than it was for them. They already had multiple partners. So for me, it was me and my wife, and probably hardest for my wife because we have 5 kids. And at the time of the merger, 5 years ago, we had the 4th on the way. Maybe he was just born. I don't know. He just turned 5 this year. So it's all wrapped around that timeline. But she was always a working individual and still has that mentality. And so it was probably harder for her to step away in that regard. And we gave up 100% ownership of our company, which is probably the hardest thing any merger can do. So really just understanding like what that looks like from taking a smaller piece of a bigger pie and where it can go from there is one of the reasons behind it. But then, as you mentioned, trust. That's probably the most important part. Am I going to be able to trust that these other individuals have my best interests in mind as well? So really just getting to know them from a very personal level and a business level, knowing their parents and getting to know their families. That was a big part of it. We're all very like-minded when it comes to business. We all have different strengths that we bring to the table, which is probably what makes us very unique as partners, because we can all rely on each other. We can all go on vacation. We can all leave. And we know that no matter what, the company is going to be in good hands and successfully ran and operated. So yeah, really getting to know them and having faith in that decision as well. Praying about the decision, that it's the right decision. It goes a long way for me. And, all signs pointed to it's the right opportunity. Whether I could convince, some people it was or wasn't in the moment, it is something time has told and will continue to tell that it was the right decision.
That concept of being the 100% owner of $1 million company compared to the 1% owner of $1 billion company. It's very, very different, even though, the 100% sounds better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the issues that also comes around ownership and partnership is accountability, right? How do you make sure that all the partners stay accountable?
Through conversation. And going back to trust, it's really just knowing that we're going to be the hardest on each other in a private setting and call each other out for things that we feel are being done wrong or handled incorrectly or things that could be going on differently. I don't think anyone's ever shied away from bringing up faults when they occur. And the best part is it's never public. Right? That's the beauty of a good relationship, is especially from an ownership perspective. We don't need to be calling each other out in front of any of our employees or anything like that. That's very unprofessional. So we sit down every week all four of us. And we have individual meetings weekly as well, 2-on-2s or 1-on-1s, sometimes 3 of us. We just discuss the things that need to be discussed, think about what we need to do to be better. We're all have a very similar mindset when it comes to continued growth and always learning more, being better leaders, better husbands, better fathers, better people. And that's where the accountability comes in, is knowing that no matter what we say, it's coming from an intent of care rather than, we're not doing good. You're a problem. You need to fix you. No, it's let's think about this, the decision that was made, how it could be better. What do we need to do now to make it work, and how can we be better in the future?
I definitely appreciate the insight. Go ahead, Justin.
One of the things you'd mentioned was about growing people, and like how you want to grow people. Like what do you want? And it's like, I want to grow people. What is that? Why does that matter, I guess? And then how do you do that?
Growing people. I have a deep care for people and growth. I mean, that all stems from my faith as a Christian, and I want to leave people better off than where they're at, or just be an influence on how I carry myself. I believe building better people builds better business, right? Whether it's in their own life, for our business, if they decide to leave, if I can help them progress their life, that's a victory. I don't preach to anybody at work. If they ask and they want to listen, sure, whatever, I'll share what I believe, but I care more about just building them personally, helping them understand what drives them, what motivates them, how they want to lead their families, how they want to lead themselves. And if we can all have that same mindset as a collective business, then we're all going to be helping each other. My employees are now helping each other be better, holding each other accountable. They understand where we want to go, and they now know how to get there, and they're motivated to help the people underneath them progress so that they can continue to progress too. Because the one thing you don't want to do is progress to a point where you have to hire somebody underneath you who's not going to be doing the same thing that you were doing or better, right? So that just creates faults within a business. So if we can continue to have a similar mindset of growing people, that just allows our business to flourish extremely well and creates more opportunity for the people we have and the people who are going to be coming in.
So I love that mindset. Do you have a system in place that you help grow people? Like, is there a path, a process? You mentioned that processes were important. Is there something that you're doing that is being more intentional other than the idea, right? The mindset makes tons of sense to me. Is there things that you're doing specifically that are being intentional with this?
Yeah, so after diving in for about 1.5 years of creating all of our SOPs and procedures and figuring out how to do things the right way, and having those growing pains during expanded growth and not having the right people in the right places, you deal with the PIPs and performance improvement plans, and looking at that and how that's all laid out from a very organized spreadsheet way, like these are the targets, this is what you need to be doing, this is when it needs to be completed by. I like that. And then I saw it and I went through it. I was like, why can't we use this same platform to build people individually rather than fixing a problem at hand, help build people continuously? So I developed, maybe I didn't develop it. I'm sure it exists in many platforms, but I thought of it in my own brain to come up with this continuous improvement plan on just meeting with my leadership team, diving in first and foremost on finding out why they want to wake up, why they want to exist, what motivates them, what drives them, what makes them want to be better. And once we can figure that out, we then move forward on how do we continually get better every single week, every single day, every single month to just keep promoting growth. And so I meet with my leadership team. Now it's bi-weekly, individually. And at first it was weekly. It got to a point where I couldn't do that continuously. So now my senior project manager meets with his team individually. And I've moved it to bi-weekly meetings, but it's on a personal level. We get into business on the back end of it, how that personal development translates to what we can be doing better in business. But it's really allowed personal growth, both individually and collectively as a team, to where it creates the trust and accountability when you can be vulnerable in private situations to share back and forth experiences, what you're going through on a personal side of life, which isn't always easy. And some people don't really want to share that in some settings. I'm very fortunate that my leadership team is open to it. And we have a great relationship and trust in that regard. It's more of a love affair. Like, they all know how much we all care about each other, and we all want each other to be successful. And through that mentorship, that's the biggest fruit of it, is now collectively we all have the same goal, and we all have the same mindset of where we want to go as a company, because they see how much we care about the people here, and in return, the clients, and where we want to take this company and where it can go.
So just for context here for a second, what is the youngest in terms of like number of years of the company? What is the youngest person on your leadership team that you're talking about?
Youngest person on leadership team, well, I'm 38, and youngest leadership.
As in years at the company?
At the company, okay. So, if I'm thinking of project managers as a leadership position, not their supervisor, I would say 4 years.
4 years, okay. A house with context, because when you're 1 year in a leadership position versus 4 years, there's some trust that's been built up, right, to help with, let's say, the continuous improvement plan, because then things that are more personal can be discussed, and there's trust that it doesn't get taken advantage of, right? That's the reason why people don't share, let's say, struggles, right? No one wants to talk about their struggles unless they know that they're in a safe environment to be able to share that and not be taken advantage of, right? So thank you for that context. Are the conversations different at, when you're a year in versus 4 years in?
It was easy to start this program with the people I had. So when I say the youngest is 4 years, I actually have two project managers that's 5 months in and 1 week in. So in my mindset, I'm not including them in that leadership. It's not against them. It's just they're still in a phase of, I guess, tenureship with our company. So they are in leadership positions, and I have started that program with the person who's been here for about 5 months. So he's the best way I can answer that question there. And he has embraced it for sure. He has no problem sharing, and has openly stated he knows that what's said in this room is kept in this room for us to work on and help his development. And so I don't know how the newest member will react to it yet. I haven't had that opportunity to even introduce that part of what we do yet. So he's still kind of learning the ins and outs of the day-to-day stuff currently.
When do you introduce that? When do you actually introduce that then?
I usually give it about 4 to 6 weeks so that they just get settled in on the CRM, the contracts we have, our employee, our staff, our clientele, and then we really start to have like a 30-day review. And then usually after that, we start to sit down and have that type of weekly developmental kind of relationship.
Okay. That's a great context to know, because that means, that you can't start that conversation right away. There's some building, there's some priorities, and there's a piecemeal of trust that happens there before building. So it's really just stacking on top before you can really get to sort of the CIP, the continuous improvement plan.
Yeah,
if you will.
I think you have to understand if that person's going to be a right fit for your company first before you really start investing a whole lot of time to, allow them to be someone who's going to be with you for a long time.
Okay. Appreciate the insight. Justin, should we talk a little bit more about process? I think we should.
Yes.
I like this aspect.
One thing for you, obviously you bring these other trades in, right? So like go from doing these renovations, these new builds, all these things, and then you start bolting on some of these things in the merge. I guess the question first comes like, why do it that way instead of being more of like a paper GC? Like, obviously you can get specialty trades that do all kinds of different things for you. why do you see, one, these trades specifically make sense to bring together underneath one house in comparison to just subbing them out?
So for us, what we found to be the biggest benefit of that is the brand. So when we go out and we meet with people and we explain to them our process, our procedure, who we are, and who's going to be on the job site, it's our employees. So they're going to hold a higher value. And it's nothing against subs. We have a lot of subs, great relationships, but we're not right now going to start a plumbing division and an electrical division and a drywall division and an installation division and a concrete division and all these things to bring everything in.
Well, not today, Brian, but you're an entrepreneur, so that could be right like 6 months from now.
But no, I think it means something to the client when they see a crew roll up in a Lotz truck and in an AM Woodland truck, knowing that that's who they're hiring. It's not just a GC who's subbing out and lining up a bunch of different people. It's people who come in with the same mentality that we have, the care, the respect. They're representing us. They're talking about all the things we do through our company. I get a ton of great feedback from clients just on how personable and courteous our crews are. And that's just like a stem of where we're at as owners and what we flow through the company. So it takes a lot of buy-in, and it's not always easy to get it to trickle through all the way down, but with the right process and with the right continuous improvement plan, everybody gets a feel of that, and everybody has an opportunity to sit down and truly understand and feel like they're being heard throughout the company, not just there to collect a check, but there to have a path forward. And when you have that opportunity as an employee, you're going to treat your jobs and the clients a little bit differently than just showing up for a contract to do the work. And so I think that's one of the biggest benefits that we have is you're hiring a company who is full front there to take care of you. And it's not a bunch of random subs coming into your house. It's people who we employ, and it's a better experience. It's not always easy to really truly explain it, but it creates a better experience for our clients because everyone who steps foot in there really cares and knows what our company is and what we do and how we can serve them.
So they're living and breathing really the values of your company. Well, yeah. So go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, same culture is what I was thinking, right? Like when you, even if it's not a bad culture, right, or a more toxic culture with a specialty contract or a trade, whatever, it's different, right? So like the experience they have is different, right? And when you have it all in house and everybody's, singing or playing to the same sheet of music, it changes the experience, right? Like it's just like it's all the same. It's all courteous. It's all it's all whatever that is. Even if somebody else is doing a quality work, it doesn't change the feeling aspect of it from one to the other to the other to the other. So that makes perfect sense to me.
You actually kind of made me think about this with sort of the merge and like the different aspects of business. Are you running these different divisions as one single company, or are they different individual companies? What does the structure look like? Even though you have the same brand, right? Branding is one aspect. That doesn't mean you're necessarily in the same company. Are they one company or individuals?
So the way we set up our budgets is it's broken out. So we kind of operate it from a financial and planning perspective individually by category. So we have our carpentry and painting is lumped into one. Our landscape production is lumped into one, and our landscape maintenance and snow is lumped into one. And so we have different budgets and targets for each one. Ultimately, they, at the end of the year, all get combined for tax purposes, but it allows us to really individually break down what our goals are individually, per division, per crew, per person, so that we can set adequate goals for our team to hit and achieve. It just comes down to proper planning and budgeting. If we lumped it all together, it's good for sharing overhead, which we have to do anyways, but it allows us to set proper goals for our teams to have realistic expectations of achieving.
Okay. So I'm guessing you have like a holding company that holds all the different divisions. Is that kind of how it works? Okay. So when you talk about tax purposes, that's what you're talking about. So then, are they all? So there's a difference between tax structure and corporate structures, right? LLC, for example, that is both tax and corporate structure, but an S corp is an actual corporate structure, right? Are you like C corp, S corp, LLC across the board? Does it matter?
There's differences the way they're set up just from the way we initially set them up with the state before the merger and businesses we've started after. So it didn't really make sense to change a lot of things at that point in time. And so that's kind of how we're operating now. I know we're a corporation underneath Lotz, and quite honestly, Dan, our CFO, one of our partners, he handles all of the business development end of stuff and taxes and everything. He's a CPA by trade. So he would be the brain to pick on how all that goes down and what gets put where and why and for what reasons. But that's the trust aspect of the partnership there. I know for our investment firm, we open up a new LLC for every property we own. And so that's just for liability reasons per each individual unit. So, it's a holding group at top. We have our different set structures on the three businesses below, and that's kind of how we operate right now.
Okay. No, it's very interesting to hear kind of how it's organized. A lot of companies would, at least people that are running companies, they would think that it's all done under one. But you probably have like 40 plus LLCs.
Yeah. I mean, in all of our businesses, it's a lot. So more than I care to count for, and it'll continue to grow, I'm sure. But,
yeah.
It's
but limiting that liability, right? If something goes wrong with one of them, all the other pieces of the business aren't affected, which is beautiful in its own right? Not things necessarily think about, but super important in the continuation of the overall entity and brands.
I mean, quite honestly, people should be putting their houses in LLCs. So,
ooh, that is a whole conversation, a whole can of worms that that will have to be a completely different podcast if we're going to go down that can of worms. I love that you said that. Maybe on a different episode, we'll explore that. You had said something about the maintenance side, essentially the landscaping, the maintenance side, which is really the landscaping and then the snow removal, right? Do you keep the same people on the landscaping side? Is that how you cash flow? Because you essentially keep most of your people, is my understanding, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's 30 to 40 people who go home for a few months during the winter or take off or whatever. A lot of them do snow maintenance for us, our entire office staff. So like the way a lot of landscape companies operate and what kind of sets us apart a little bit is they close shop for 2-3 months and they're just done. They take their break. We employ our office staff year round. And so it's very beneficial for us. And it also creates a deficit for us to some degree because we're not cash flowing when it comes to landscape during the winter outside of snow. Fortunately, we've gotten into commercial work. So we have crews down in Tennessee that just wrapped up. We're bidding out jobs in Las Vegas and other parts of the country where we're able to hopefully send crews during Q1 where we could be generating large revenues on commercial jobs where other landscape companies in our area aren't producing anything. So it just gives us a step ahead there. But really for the office staff, it allows us to, we call it our winter task list. We go through and we update everything we can to be better for next year. It's not just a rinse and repeat company. Okay, let's sell jobs. Let's do as much work as we can. Take a break, do it again. We're always in the mindset of how can we be better for next year and the foreseeable future. So there's always tasks that our entire design team is working on during the off season. Our production team is working on during the off season on how we can just be more efficient and more profitable every year.
How do you, as in the different divisions, how does the design piece work? So like you've got Lotz, you've got AM, you've got Edge, right? How do you design stuff? Right? How do you make this cohesive piece together when they were three different entities?
So our biggest design team is our landscape designers. So we have 4 landscape designers staffed underneath AM Woodland. I got 1 landscape designer, construction designer staffed underneath me currently. We've had interior designers staffed. We now outsource all of that. So we have a group of interior designers and architects that we partner with. And we have in-house construction designers and in-house landscape designers. So when it comes to the addition or the deck or the boathouse and the pool and the patio and the landscaping, it's definitely collaborative to where I'm going to pull someone from the landscape division and one of my team members or an outsourced team member and bring them all together and almost mastermind the project from a design perspective. So it's collaboration underneath one roof in private setting to make the full plan really work. And a lot of the subcontracted stuff is, okay, this is what I need and where I need it, because we do all of the internal designing and placement of where things are going to go, how they're going to be built, and what the intended outlook is of the project. And then we just need a licensed architect to draft the plans that we want, or an interior designer to help make selections and furnishings and that type of thing. So it's most of it's done in-house, but it's a collaborative effort with whoever we need to pull in to really make the design come to fruition.
Got it. So blended responsibility, effectively, not one individual. It's not like watching HGTV. You got the one designer walks in and builds everything, or has the full design of all the structural pieces, all the interior design, all the pool outside, everything. It's not magic that way.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, I would say it's me, right? Like I've had the luxury of doing all the designing for our company for a long time, and I love doing it. And I have a knack for being able to see what the client really wants without them being able to articulate it properly, and then advising my design team of, okay, this is what I want to see. These are the things that I want to see in the design, and then I can hand it off to sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 different designers and say, you give me a plan that has these elements, you give me a plan that has these elements, and you give me a plan that has these elements. And let's bring them all to the table and see which one the client likes, which one flows best, which one, operates best. And sometimes it's a fun competitive game on whose design gets the chosen victory. But it allows different creative minds to come up with different plans. It's not the same designer coming up with a white kitchen and white countertops every single time.
What do you mean it looks the same every time? Because it does.
Yeah, you got those builders that are like, oh, I know that house. That's a so-and-so house. That's a so-and-so house. So we really listen to the clients, and I don't have a specific design that I'm ever tied to. I like to be creative and think outside the box as much as possible. And fortunately, our clients kind of understand that and know that. And, it's important to listen to the client and hear what they want and what they think they want and what they think they need, and then really like showing them something that's above what they're expecting to, really get them to open up and be excited about what they're spending their money on.
Awesome. I just, maybe I should send you this picture. I just built a built-in in my living room. It has an electric fireplace and my TV above it, and made this design thing. And initially, when we were going to do this, it was very different than what the eventual end result was. Not because it was just changed many times. My wife had lots of ideas, and eventually we got to the idea that I said, are you sure? Sure. Because I am not a carpenter by trade. So like when I go to build this thing, it's going to take me way longer. In addition to, I don't exactly know what I'm doing. Like you can't like change plans midway through me, because like it'll just be a disaster. But I'll send it to you. Maybe you can give me some pointers on what I did.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I'll be honest. That's the beauty of like doing stuff on your own too, though. Like for clients, we've had clients make changes on the fly. You start framing up something like, maybe I want this done differently. And it's like, all right, like we'll do that. We're not hard put on sticking to the plan once it's started, but there's ramifications to that. As long as everybody's on the same page, then it's fine.
Exactly.
Like
the ramifications was the part I was afraid of in my situation, because I'm like, it's already taking me 5 times as long.
Well, it's like my house. I started with my outdoor space, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to have an awesome screen room. It's not a screen room anymore. So it just keeps evolving until you're done, and you're like, it's still not done, but now I have something 10 times different than what I started with. But
That's funny.
That's also the beauty of doing it yourself sometimes.
As I was thinking about this kind of changing process, the world keeps changing. How do you leverage technology in your business to help you build scale?
Technology it was something that we weren't using a lot of to its potential before we merged. I had some awesome spreadsheets for sure.
Yeah.
As good as spreadsheets are, they don't always allow you to understand how much you're recovering or what you need to be recovering, and being efficient on estimates and quotes and capturing the things you need to capture. So that was one of the first things we implemented when we merged, was getting a CRM in place for us. AM Woodland was already using LMN. It's a landscape management software. So we dabbled in that for a little bit. We dabbled with Buildertrend for a little bit. We looked at Procore. We looked at, you name it, what's out there. We looked into it and kind of fell back to LMN. We had a strong base here already in place to kind of help us get it integrated, and that's what we're currently using. But really the biggest benefit of that as far as technology goes is the ability to create budgets. Not a lot of these programs have that. They're just estimating softwares and you're plugging in the numbers. So what LMN does that we love is we can plug in every single one of our expenses, overhead, forecasted expenses, anything we can think of, from bonuses to raises to new vehicles. I mean, you name it, we plug it in, and it creates a budget for us of where we need to be at from an hourly billing perspective to recover our overhead and profits, from maintenance to snow to construction to painting to landscape construction. So everyone has that's going back to why we keep the budget separate, because it allows us to really capture what we need to individually to allow us to still be competitive in the market, but also recover what we need to as an organization.
So it doesn't hide some of the bad things that might be happening in a business. We'll make the money somewhere else, which is a really bad.
Yeah, we don't like to rob Peter to pay Paul. That's something we don't want to do.
Okay. So there was something that we talked about before we started recording, and I kind of want to revisit it because it was a super awesome topic that we don't get to talk about very often. So this is going to be, for some people, I think this is going to be a touchy subject. I think it's really important to talk about. Generational work ethic was the topic. And we started talking about your dad as the start of the conversation, and that he's in his 70s and still working, right? And likes to work.
He's a workhorse.
Right?
Yeah. Can't do it any other way.
So there's been a lot of flack given to younger generations. I won't name any names, millennials. And by the way, I'm technically a millennial, technically. And Justin here is technically a millennial as well. So is there such a thing as generational work ethic? What's your opinion?
I think there is, but I think it's inevitable in any generation. I see it in older guys and younger guys and middle-aged guys and women, whatever it is. But the biggest gap that I've seen has been people entering the workforce as their current age being between 20 to 30 as of right now. And I don't know if it's just the generation that those kids were brought up in, where you have both parents working and less siblings in the household, where maybe it's entitlement or not having to work at a younger age to build that work ethic, or seeing it. There's been less blue collar workers to be an example for kids these days too, I think. There was a big push, right, like 15, 20 years ago, of college is the only way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that drove our industry down a little bit as far as what we could hire for good workforce. And, some kids just feel like they're entitled and don't want to work, or they come work for a few months, put it on their resume and go on to the next job, and they just keep climbing the ladder that way, which is fine. I mean, people can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter. But the work ethic, I think, from generational purposes, there was a gap about 15, 20 years ago as kids were being raised, as they were children then, didn't really have the influence that they might have needed to enter the workforce, which is one of the biggest opportunities for kids now, is there's a huge gap in work that's needed. We need people to continue doing the work we're doing. It's an awesome job and career to have, especially in the future. And it needs to be repopulated.
So how do you see sort of a gain in better ethic and better work ethic? Can it be still learned even outside of, we'll call it childhood, and outside of really the teenage years?
Yeah, totally. I think so. I think people can change. Absolutely. At some degree, it takes personal motivation or understanding of what the opportunity can be in order for someone to truly want to change or want to buy into putting in the effort to staying with a company long enough to see that benefit happen. And I think to that point, that's like the hardest part, is getting people, training people, and retaining people to make a company that can last sustainably through growth efforts, to really get the benefit out of the people and let the people benefit from the company. It has to go both ways. And a lot of times you get people who will go to a company for a couple of years, gain what they need to gain, and move on. And that works to some degree, but that's where we have problems in the labor force. I mean, there's a lot of bounce around with carpenters and painters and landscapers, and they just continually circle through. So finding good people, and we found really good work ethic styled individuals. It's one of our lead carpenters is in his early 20s. And we've trained him over the last 2 years to really flourish. He worked for other companies before. He came here, saw an opportunity where people were willing to train him and teach him and show him a path of how he can progress and make more money and grow with our company. And he has absolutely flourished. And so, those people still exist, obviously. I think they exist in every generation. It's just harder to find those people in that age demographic.
Okay. So not impossible to find work ethic in younger generations. However, there needs to be some intrinsic, we'll call it ambition, or there needs to be some intrinsic motivation, knowledge gain, etc. You need to see that opportunity within a company. And is that motivation, just as a last question, I'll try to keep it short here. Is it just a natural thing that happens as you see age progression, that someone becomes more motivated in terms of work, or does age have nothing to do with it?
I don't think age has much to do with it, because we've hired some tenured carpenters and painters, specifically carpenters. I think the carpenter trade gets a rap of people who just show up when they want to show up and don't show up, and 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late, or whatever it may be. And that's how it is for a lot of smaller companies and probably larger companies, probably all over the place. So I think the main thing is culture. And culture, right, is what it is. And when they come in here, I can't tell you how many really great carpenters we've let go for that same reason, where they see an opportunity and they are striving, and then for whatever reasons they fall into whatever patterns that they fall into. We don't tolerate showing up 15 minutes late or calling in sick repetitively on Mondays. And, we work with people to correct that and get them in the right path. But if it's continued, it's a problem, and you can't operate as a company that way. And we don't want to operate as a company that way. And so we've had countless carpenters that we've had to let go who are absolutely phenomenal carpenters. And sure enough, they'll call us back 1 week later, 1 month later, 1 year later. Hey, you guys hiring again? Can I come back? I didn't realize how good I had it there. It's nice to hear that we're doing the right things. At that point, no, we can't. And I understand people could change even after they leave, but what precedent does that show after we've given people opportunity 1, opportunity 2, opportunity 3, before we have to make the decision to let them go and then ultimately bring them back, it doesn't sit well with other employees who've been here growing and putting forth the effort that they need to allow our company to be successful. So that's a little bit of the revolving door, but the people who can understand it and make the change individually to be better for themselves have the biggest opportunity to flourish.
Okay. Thank you for
Continuous
engaging me.
improvement. The KIP, not PIP, but the KIP. Love it. This has been amazing. We have one last question for you, though. Brian, if you could go back 20 years, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
Well, I'd be 18. And when I was 18, oh boy, let's see, that was me going to Maui. So I would say go to Maui. I don't know. I've thought a lot about this question. And, I believe everything happens absolutely for a reason. I wouldn't be where I'm at with the opportunities I have if I didn't take every single path that I took. But what I would say is I probably would have held my faith a little closer to myself at that time in my life and at the age I was in. It's a very selfish age to be at, and I definitely lived that way. And had I had a little bit clearer head on my shoulders and understanding of what I really wanted in life, I probably could have done things a little bit more efficiently.
All right.
Okay. Wise words.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love hearing that.
We're going to drop all the links or social and all that stuff in the show notes. But if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just call our company. We're open 5 days a week, normal working hours, 7 to 5. And it's 847-338-LOTZ. So stole that phone number from my dad, actually, about 25, 30 years ago.
Nice.
I've had it ever since. So that's the easiest way. That or email. I'm always open, checking. Happy to talk to anybody about work or anything else. I love networking, love chatting with people, and feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Listeners, this has been amazing. I mean, Will have had a blast, and Brian, he looks happy. So that's always a good thing when we get to the end here. If the guest is still happy, we've done at least somewhat good of a job as host. And until next time, adios.
Adios.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Building Scale. To help us reach even more people, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or on social media.
Remember, the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology.
And our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy.
So if you think your company's technology pillar could use some improvement, book a call with us to see how we can help maximize your IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
And until next time,
Keep building scale.
Scale.